My boyfriend had to go to the ER after accident, and he got a truly ridiculous bill back. I offered to fight the bill for her because I've done it before, and he said sure. I went all out, because honestly if we were out $5,000, after insurance, that would fuck up our holiday plans pretty bad. So I had him call the hospital and authorize me to handle his bill and access his medical records. Got an itemized bill and compared the prices for each code to the fair prices. Called billing to dispute the bill, but was told that billing only collects bills. I'd need to contact admin to dispute. Bounced around a call center for hours trying to get someone who was actually qualified for bill disputes, and getting nowhere. Google and LinkedIn searched for the hospital board of directors and upper management. Got 30 emails of the most influential people at the hospital, plus the hospital's investors. Every day would send a few emails, working my way up the chain, and writing an increasingly long email describing how they billed my client at 7 times over the fair price for services rendered, and how their billing department, customer service department, and the growing list of management I'd emailed, had failed to address the issue. Escalated the emails until I was writing the director-level staff with the entire board of directors and a number of outside investors CC'd, asking for a written statement regarding their justification for billing at a rate 7 times higher than the national average, for commensurate services to what is available at other hospitals. And sternly laying out the failures to appropriately respond, at every level of the company. Well, once I'd done all that, which was honestly only like 15 minutes a day, they reduced the bill. From $5,000 to $26. Yep, $26 fucking dollars. Well, I told my boyfriend the good news, and he was at first overjoyed and blown away, like literally jumping up and down and hugging me and saying I was literally a Christmas miracle. But then when he asked how I did it, I said it wasn't too hard, I just had to send a couple emails each day. He was curious what I'd said, and I handed him my phone. He started to get stressed, and flipping back through other emails. Which there were like 60 of. He told me I went way too far. He was expecting me to dispute through their billing department or something normal and reasonable like that, not internet stalk every single manager and board member and investor and harass them into dropping the bill. I was frustrated because I'd just saved us $5,000, actually made it possible for us to afford a nice Christmas and save some money, and he was mad at me because I'd been a bit of a hard ass. I was furious, and he was also mad at me, saying he authorized me to dispute a bill, not basically threaten and harass a whole damn hospital for weeks. Am I the asshole for how I got my boyfriend's medical bills dropped? A couple years ago a job with housing fell through, so I was stuck in a strange town and state with no money or home. I got a job waitressing and a side gig at night cleaning and did all the hours I could. I was tired, dirty and hungry for 3 months until I found a person that needed a roommate. Things got better and I even got a little cat that kept me company. Luckily, the town was near a tourist area, and enough folks got lost on the way to tourist places that the diner I worked at was busy. But Sundays were the worst. The locals on Sunday didn't tip, and without tips, I went hungry. One Sunday, a local family left a $100 tip. But the tip turned out to be fake, with a sermon on the back, and it was stamped with a local church name and address. I was salty. For over a year that same family came in. I very gently tried to tell the man how disappointed I was when it wasn't a tip, but he said riches and God were better. He didn't ever tip at all for the whole time I was there. Then in September, a hurricane came through. The diner was flooded is closed. Since I didn't have a job anymore, I could go to church on Sunday if I wanted. I bought a lottery ticket and went to that church with the $100 sermon. The guy was there and turns out he was the pastor. There was only about 30 people in the church, and it had lost part of the roof in the storm. The people seemed nice, and I knew them mostly from the diner though I didn't know their names. I never went to church much since I was a little kid, so it was different. They took an offering, and I put in my $2 lottery ticket. The next week I went again, with a lottery ticket. The $100 pastor teased me that he had never gotten a lottery ticket in the basket before, and I told him he was getting another one. Maybe God would make him lucky. He thought it was funny. Then the next week I took a fake lottery ticket in. My brother had given it to me, and told me it was fake because he didn't want to hurt my feelings. I had held on to it because it was from him. I put that in the basket. The 4th week was the last week I was there. I got a job in Cincinnati, and was going to drive up there that day. Folks at church knew because I had told them the week before and they were saying goodbye. The $100 pastor came up to me and really quietly scolded me before I left though. He told me it had been real hurtful to think he had won a lottery enough to fix the roof and then it turned out to be a joke. He told me I should think about it as I drive to my new job. I told him that now he knew how I felt when he gave me that fake 100 when I was sleeping in my car and hungry. I left and was happy about it the whole drive north. It's the best thing I ever did. Mid-pandemic, my boss disappeared. Just as we were gearing up for our most challenging, time-intensive project in the last 5 years, he dropped off the face of the earth. We kept working for a week or so without him because everything was virtual and the virtual work world was still so new, we didn't really need him. We were delegating tasks ourselves and completing things on our own. We spoke to coworkers maybe twice a week. But some decisions were beyond our discretion, so we could not move forward on those aspects of the project until we received a response from him. After about 7 to 10 total days of silence, we called his boss's boss, who informed our team that our boss had COVID so wasn't able to work right now. We took that at face value, of course, sent him letters of well wishes and didn't bother him with work stuff, or ask why he was able to notify his boss but not us. 3 weeks go by. Still not a word. We're beginning to discuss amongst ourselves whether or not he's maybe died. We're terrified and horrified and so concerned. We're contemplating calling his extended family. We're sending flowers and care packages to his apartment. Meanwhile, the project has descended into chaos because no leader was appointed in our boss's stead, so we are forced to navigate several layers of bureaucracy in order to accomplish most anything at all, whereas in the past he would have just signed off in real time. Around week 4 or 5, one of our coworkers suggests he doesn't really have COVID but is instead using it as an excuse to take time off. We all jump all over our coworker, asking how he could insinuate something like that, and lamenting about what a tragedy our boss is probably living through. People were chilly to him for days after that. Week 7. We're undertaking a letter-writing campaign to upper management demanding an acting boss be appointed while ours is recovering. The project is a month behind schedule. We're all working overtime every day, sometimes on weekends, without extra compensation, just to keep up with the clusterfuck of the boss's sudden absence. Week 8. He finally reappears, logging into a morning meeting as though nothing happened. He looks well-rested, well-fed, and has a tan. Not at all like someone who's just come out the other side of a 6-week respiratory virus. He says something quickly to the effect of, "Yeah, that was brutal. Glad to be better and glad to be back. Let's get to work." But doesn't want to talk about what happened or answer any of our questions like, "Were you in the hospital? What was it like?" etc. Fast forward to about 4 or 5 months after this. My sister sends me a promo for a fairly new reality show. I'd never heard of it, but it's on a major platform, and says, "Isn't this guy a friend of yours or something?" I swear I've seen him and you together. I watched the trailer for this show, and lo and behold, there's my boss. Participating as a contestant on a reality TV show. It did not take long for me to put the pieces together and realize he took extended leave to go on TV, that he knew he wouldn't otherwise get during this massive project, and lied about it under the guise of a vicious disease that nearly all of us had lost a loved one to. I sit and stew with this information, unsure of how to handle it. I know confronting him won't get me very far, but I can't just do nothing, right? I'm not close enough with any of my colleagues to discuss this with them and trust that they wouldn't run off and send an all-company email about it. So I slept on it a few nights and then the opportunity fell right in my lap. I got an email from corporate encouraging teams still working remotely to plan virtual social functions to keep a collegial culture going and to stay in touch. Among the suggestions were game night, trivia, and watch party. With the premiere of the show only a couple weeks away, I got busy telling everyone how I'd been meaning to get into this show, and it's so enticing and exciting, basically laying the groundwork to guilt them into coming to an impromptu virtual watch party off hours. I offered to get special shirts made up and send them to each person's house. Whatever I had to do to get the attention of corporate. Finally, I sent an invite to all my boss's bosses, and any other members of corporate I could justify inviting without making a total ass of myself. Because this is entirely virtual, my boss is unable to overhear any of the chatter. He doesn't realize I'm hyping up this show, and he doesn't realize I've planned a watch party for it. I wasn't inviting him unless he had the balls to explicitly ask about it. I was hoping he wouldn't have heard about it at all. Not until afterwards. That was really the only way this could work. The night comes and I am screen sharing the show to a whopping 64 people. A huge chunk of my department. Many members of corporate had showed up because I was the only person stupid enough to buy into their virtual social work party scheme, so they felt pressured to support it. I was holding my breath, hoping this would go my way, bracing myself for some kind of curveball. But there wasn't even that dramatic of a build-up. Right at the outset they introduced the premise, which included the contestants being in a COVID-safe bubble in an exotic location, and gave a brief overview of each contestant. As my boss was introduced, right down to what he did for work, and I could see people register delight and surprise, then go blank, just before sliding into confusion and rage. The chat took a drastic turn from "oh my goodness" and "I knew him when," and all sorts of pithy jokes to a brave member of my team, or perhaps one just pushed a tad too far by all the extra hours he pulled in this douche's absence, sent the message, "wait, when was this filmed?" My audience dropped from 64 to 58 to mid-30s, and by the time the episode was over it was just me and the other 15 core members of the team. One asked if I'd already known, but some members of the team are very close to the boss, so all I said was, "well, I definitely do now." And wrapped up the call pretty quickly after that. Perhaps one of the best bonuses is that you could already tell from episode 1 that the character arc the show assigned to our boss was bumbling idiot. He had his true colors on in full display and some production massaging up them to the 11th degree. Boss was fired. My good buddy was promoted to his place. I am an office legend now, especially since no one is 100% sure whether or not it was intentional. And it was also satisfying that it was almost worth the dozens of hours of uncompensated overtime that led to it. Edit title should be 8 weeks. I kept not factoring in the first couple weeks because we weren't suspicious or burdened until the final 6.